Imagine a classroom where a young boy's dreams are mocked, his truth dismissed as a lie until the door swings open, and the undeniable reality walks in, silencing every doubter. Dive into this gripping tale of triumph, identity, and justice. That will leave you on the edge of your seat. Subscribe now to unlock more unforgettable stories that spark inspiration and challenge the status quo. In the bustling heart of Arlington, Virginia, where the hum of ambition and the weight of history hung in the air, 12-year-old Jamal Carter sat in the back row of Ms. Hargrove's 7th grade social studies class at Jefferson Middle School, his pencil tapping rhythmically against his notebook, a habit that betrayed his restless spirit. The classroom, with its faded world map and flickering fluorescent lights, was a crucible of adolescent dreams and insecurities, and today's lesson on careers and government had sparked a rare flicker of excitement in Jamal's eyes. Ms. Hargrove, a stern woman in her late 40s with a penchant for pressed blouses and thinly veiled biases, paced the front of the room, her voice sharp as she called on students to share what their parents did for a living. One by one, the answers came: a nurse, a mechanic, a software engineer. Each met with a nod or a perfunctory, "That's nice." When Jamal's hand shot up, his voice steady but tinged with pride, he said, "My dad works at the Pentagon. He's a high-ranking official in cybersecurity." The room fell silent for a split second before a ripple of snickers spread among his classmates, their eyes darting to Ms. Hargrove, who stood frozen, her lips curling into a smirk that was both dismissive and cruel. "The Pentagon?" she repeated, her tone dripping with skepticism, as if Jamal had claimed his father was an astronaut on Mars. "Jamal, let's be realistic. Cybersecurity at the Pentagon requires advanced degrees and years of experience. Perhaps your father works near the Pentagon, maybe as a janitor or a security guard." The words landed like a slap, and the classroom erupted in laughter, a few students whispering "janitor" under their breath as Jamal's face burned, his hands clenching into fists beneath his desk. He wanted to shout that his father, Marcus Carter, was a decorated Air Force veteran with a master's degree from MIT, a man who briefed generals and protected national secrets, but the weight of the room's mockery pinned his words in his throat. Ms. Hargrove pressed on, her voice now laced with condescension. "It's important to tell the truth, Jamal. Exaggerating doesn't help anyone." The bell rang, sparing him further humiliation, but as he gathered his books, his heart pounded with a mix of shame and fury, vowing to prove her wrong. Unbeknownst to Ms. Hargrove, Jamal's father had been planning a surprise visit that day. A rare break from his grueling schedule to attend the school's career day, a fact Jamal hadn't mentioned because he wanted to keep it low-key, knowing his dad's presence would speak louder than words. As the afternoon wore on, Jamal sat through math and science, his mind replaying Ms. Hargrove's words, each syllable a thorn in his pride. He thought of his father's late nights at the dining table, poring over classified reports, or the stories of his deployments, the medals tucked away in a velvet-lined box in their living room. Marcus Carter was a man of quiet strength, his deep voice commanding respect without effort, and Jamal had grown up idolizing him, dreaming of one day following in his footsteps. By the time the career day assembly began in the auditorium, Jamal's nerves were frayed, his eyes scanning the crowd for his father's familiar silhouette. The principal introduced a parade of parents, a firefighter, a dentist, a city planner, each sharing polished presentations about their jobs, the students clapping politely. Ms. Hargrove, standing at the side of the stage, whispered to another teacher, her eyes flicking toward Jamal with a smugness that made his stomach churn. Then, as the principal announced, "Our next guest, Marcus Carter, Deputy Director of Cybersecurity at the Pentagon," the auditorium doors swung open, and there he was, Marcus, 6'2", in a tailored Navy suit, his Air Force lapel pin glinting under the stage lights, his presence commanding the room before he even spoke. Jamal's heart leapt, a grin breaking across his face as whispers rippled through the crowd. Students craning their necks to see the man whose credentials needed no embellishment. Ms. Hargrove's smirk vanished, her face paling as Marcus strode to the podium, his gaze sweeping the room before landing on his son with a warm, proud nod. The auditorium fell silent as Marcus began, his voice steady and authoritative, detailing his role in safeguarding the nation's digital infrastructure, recounting a recent operation that thwarted a foreign cyber attack, all without a trace of boastfulness. He spoke of his journey growing up in a small town, facing skepticism as a black man in tech, earning his degree against the odds, and rising through the ranks with grit and intellect. The students were rapt, their earlier giggles replaced by awe, and Jamal felt a swell of vindication, his chest tight with pride. But the story didn't end there. Marcus, with a subtle glance at Ms. Hargrove, pivoted to a topic unlisted in his slides: the importance of believing in young people's potential. "My son Jamal," he said, gesturing toward him, "told his class this morning about my work. He was met with doubt, even ridicule. But let me be clear, Jamal's truth is my truth. And no one student or teacher should ever dismiss a child's reality without evidence." The room was pin-drop silent, Ms. Hargrove's face now a mask of mortification as colleagues exchanged glances, the principal shifting uncomfortably in his seat. Marcus continued, sharing how Jamal's curiosity about coding had led to late-night lessons at home, how his son had already built a basic encryption program, a fact that drew gasps from the crowd. The twist came when Marcus invited Jamal to the stage, handing him a USB drive with a challenge: "Show them what you've got, son." Trembling but determined, Jamal plugged the drive into the projector, displaying a sleek app he'd coded, a mock cybersecurity dashboard he'd designed for a school project. The interface was rudimentary but impressive for a 12-year-old, and as Jamal explained its features, his voice grew stronger, the room erupting in applause when he finished. Miss Hargrove, now visibly shaken, tried to slip out the side door, but the principal intercepted her, his expression grim. The assembly ended with Marcus fielding questions, students clamoring to know more about his work, while Jamal stood beside him, no longer the mocked boy in the back row, but a star in his own right. Back in the classroom, the fallout was swift. Ms. Hargrove, called to the principal's office, faced a formal reprimand for her conduct, her biases laid bare in a meeting where Marcus, calm but unyielding, recounted the morning's events, backed by Jamal's classmates who'd witnessed her ridicule. Rumors swirled that she'd been placed on leave, her absence the next week fueling speculation. But the story's deeper twist lay in its aftermath. Jamal, emboldened by his father's support, joined the school's coding club, where he found all eyes in two classmates who'd laughed at him but now apologized, their own dreams sparked by Marcus's speech. The club's advisor, a young teacher named Mr. Patel, saw Jamal's potential and connected him with a local STEM program, where he won a scholarship to a summer coding camp. Marcus, meanwhile, became a quiet advocate at the school, volunteering to mentor students of color, his presence a reminder that representation mattered. Months later, at a district-wide STEM fair, Jamal's project, a revised version of his cybersecurity app, took first place, his name in the local paper alongside. A photo of him and Marcus, their smiles mirroring each other. The article mentioned an anonymous complaint against a teacher at Jefferson Middle, hinting at a broader reckoning, but Jamal barely noticed, his eyes fixed on the future. Ms. Hargrove, it was whispered, had transferred to another district, her career tainted by the incident, a cautionary tale for those who underestimated their students. For Jamal, the memory of that day in class faded, replaced by the warmth of his father's pride and the hum of his laptop as he coded late into the night, dreaming of the Pentagon, not as a distant myth, but as a legacy he'd one day claim. The story of that day, though, lived on in the school's halls, a legend of a boy who spoke his truth, a father who walked in to prove it, and a teacher who learned the hard way that assumptions could unravel in the face of reality. Word count.